Well, it took more than economic warfare to end the Cold War. It took military action, took bullets. And once again, Bill Casey and his CIA were right in the middle of it. Remember, the guiding principle of the Cold War is that whatever territory belonged to the Russians was theirs. Whatever didn't belong to them was up for grabs. Well, President Reagan threw that guiding principle right out the window. And we began to support anti-communist insurgencies around the world. For example, Afghanistan, Ethiopia, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Angola, Mozambique. And you've got to understand what this looked like to Moscow. To their way of looking at the world, the correlation of forces could only go in one direction. You could have a communist insurgency, but you couldn't have an anti-communist insurgency. That was a logical impossibility. But now there are half dozen of them around the world. President Reagan had completely changed the rules of the game. And for the first time, we were on offense and they were on defense. Now, historians can argue forever about the tactics we used, whether we were successful here, not successful there. The point to keep in mind is we had thrown the switch. Now we were playing offense, they were on defense, and you know what? They didn't like playing defense. And you know what else? They weren't very good at it. And now you can see why our invasion of Grenada in 1983 played such an outsized role in winning the Cold War. Grenada is a small island in the Caribbean. The Russians and the Cubans had turned it into a military base. It was sort of an unmovable, unsinkable aircraft carrier in our front yard. It was a threat, but an immortal threat. So we invaded, we threw them out. By the way, Grenada is not that important. It's the world's leading supplier of nutmeg. This was the first time we had taken one of their pieces off the board. That's why it was important. And what they were saying in Moscow is, if this president's going to take one of our pieces off the board, what piece might he go for next? How about Poland? I want to tell you a story about President Reagan and Bill Casey that you've never heard before. I know you haven't heard it before because I'm the only one who knows it and I've never told anyone. From the moment John Paul II sat on the throne of St. Peter's, the Kremlin knew it had a big problem on its hands. His objective was the liberation of his beloved Poland. 2 years later, Ronald Reagan was president of the United States. And he kept talking about Poland and the oppressed Polish people. And the president and the Pope were in very close communications. You will not be surprised to learn that one of the links in the secret chain that connected them was Bill Casey. The Polish Pope had moral authority. The American president had more than 100,000 armed troops in Europe. What the Kremlin understood very, very clearly is that if they lost Poland, the Cold War was over. Poland was the linchpin of the entire Soviet empire. They always knew it was the linchpin. They believed that deeply. Remember, our military alliance was called NATO. Their military alliance was called the Warsaw Pact. Well, there's no Warsaw Pact without Warsaw. If you lose Poland, it's over, okay? In May 1981, while riding through St. Peter's Square, John Paul was shot. Miraculously, he survived the assassin's bullets. Even more miraculously, he survived the Rome hospital they took him to. From the moment those shots were fired, it's true. From the moment those shots were fired, serious people began to ask, wait a minute, was that young Turkish gunman acting alone? Or was there more to it? Was something else going on here? Bill Casey's orders were very, very clear. We stay out of this. We don't go near it. If word leaked out that at the CIA we were even thinking of looking into this, the political explosion would have blown the dome off Capitol Hill and fractured the NATO alliance. Let me tell you, there were some very nasty confrontations at the CIA about all of this. What happened? What might have happened? Should we look into this? Dare we look into this? And when I say they were nasty confrontations, I'm not kidding. Look, I grew up in Brooklyn. I know a nasty confrontation when I say when. I'm not talking about somebody wrote a nasty memo or somebody said something unpleasant at a staff meeting. I'm talking about serious pushing and shoving in the stairwells and in the underground parking garage. Okay, this was a mess. It was really nasty, and Bill's orders were very clear. We stay out of this. Well, sort of. When the fuss died down a little bit, everybody stopped obsessing over this. Very quietly, Bill ginned up an analytic team to take a look at this. Very quietly, very carefully. Got some young analysts, by the way, and especially some young women. Their careers weren't going very well. They weren't getting the promotions they should have, but they're really smart. And gave them a chance to show what they could do. We got to the bottom of it. We learned what happened, how it happened, who was involved, who wasn't involved. We got it. This is not the time and place to go into those details. In any case, I don't have the legal authority to declassify U.S. government secrets. What I want to tell you is that everything we learned is in one document. At the time we produced it, this was the most secret document ever produced by the CIA. And I'm not exaggerating about the secrecy. It was way beyond top secret. Okay? In fact, I remember in the office we were cracking bad jokes that if this were the KGB, we'd shoot the typist. Okay, we're talking about that kind of secrecy, okay? Anyway, on the day the document was complete, Bill was going to go down to the White House and brief the president. And he was looking forward to it. He really felt that, for once we really got in front of it, really had this thing nailed. And I wanted to brag a little bit about the CIA and what we'd done. I think he was looking for a presidential pat on the back. Anyway, I was waiting for him in his office when he got back. And as he took off his hat and coat, I said, "How did it go with the president?" And he laughed. He said, "Only Reagan. Guy's amazing." He said, sitting there telling him about this, so I'm holding this report in my hands, kind of rolled up in his hand, and waving it around. I said, "Mr. President, we did it. We got to the bottom of it. We found out what happened. We got it all here." He said, Reagan interrupted me. He said, "Bill, can I read that? Do I have the clearances to read that?" And Bill said, "He said, only Reagan." He said, "Any other president would have just ripped it out of my hands. Reagan asked." I said, "Mr. President, you own this document." And I gave it to him. I never saw that document again. Nor have I met anyone else who's ever seen that document again. There should be a copy of it somewhere in CIA files, but I'm not sure there is. There should certainly be that president's copy at the Reagan Library, but I'm not sure there is. May I suggest that maybe Monday somebody go down to the Reagan Library and take a look for that thing? Maybe at midnight? Now, as I said before, I won't leak the contents of that document, but I'll send a bottle of whiskey to whoever does. Okay? That's a biggie. Take a look, would you please? I just have a feeling it's not there.